everyone, and welcome to Pages and Perspectives. My name is Tamisha, and this is our very special guest, Noelle Upton.
Hi.
Noelle Upton is the author of the A Light in the Dark series, and I just wanted to get started by talking about Wicked as the Night, which is your latest release. And I have so much to say about this book because, your books are so complex for me because they are they're the main characters, but then you also have side characters. Everybody has so much depth. And for me, Ziamara, am I saying her name correctly? Ziamara or Ziamara?
I say Xiomara, so you did it right the first time.
Xiomara and Boone are our FMC and our MMC, and they are both outwardly very ruthless and brutal and rough around the edges. Xiomara is I think first impression she's a little crazy, but then kind of same with Boone. He's very detached and cold and stuff, but whenever you read these books, you kind of see how much depth there is to them. And so I guess my question to you is, where does that come from? How do you start creating these characters?
You know, it's funny. I looked over your notes before this and I was like, oh yeah, I know what to say. So my books usually come with first glimmers or glimpses of a character or a moment. And so I've said a couple times on social media that Xiomara, I imagined her character before I ever imagined Rio, her brother. And her, I grew up on Avatar: The Last Airbender, so unhinged Azula, that character arc, to the point where she breaks. I don't know. I really gravitated towards that moment for that character for some reason. And so I imagined this unhinged shapeshifter who just was kind of untethered because she didn't have a grounding form. And so then just having that little glimmer, I was like, okay, so what would her personality be like if she was untethered and kind of unhinged? And then it kind of builds and builds and builds. And when thinking of her love interest or her counterpart, and I guess I do this with all of my characters. If I think back to my other books, the love interest always has some, I guess, complementary characteristics.
Yeah.
So for Xiomara, he is more cold and more reserved. But then they also have characteristics that are in total opposition, and also that I guess are in the same lane, because both of them are quite ruthless too. So that doesn't contrast and doesn't necessarily complement. So they're in the same lane in that regard. So they have that common ground, I guess. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it does. It does. It's they, like you said, they have that common ground, that commonality where they can kind of share. Because I love the scene whenever she gets the traders for him and they're in the dungeon. I love that scene so much. Yeah. And he was like, this isn't what I wanted to do, but you know what? I'm into it. And they kind of bonded over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But outside of that, she's, dancing in the club. She wants to be under the lights. She wants the, you know what I mean? She wants the freedom, and she's very, very free. That's who she wants to be. And he's definitely, I think, I don't know if it's his age that makes him more reserved, or his experiences, or just because he is such a businessman, or, his focus is very different. And so that is what makes him more reserved, but they can always come together and find, I don't know, peace in each other that way. Whenever she just wants to watch a movie, it's okay, we'll watch a movie. And then, when he's in his business meetings and she's I need somewhere to sit. So she just sits on him in his business meetings. So so no, that makes perfect sense.
Writing that book, I very much visualized it as kind of the Xiomara show, and Boone being very content to stand in the wings and let her have her show. and I think that's another example of him being more complimentary. And there is that moment where she's like dancing and she gets to be on stage, and he's, perfectly happy to be in the audience watching her and supporting her. Which I feel like, not the support is different, but the other MMCs I've written, they kind of have their own show. Whereas Boone, I think probably that came from his age, where a lot of the figuring himself out, and he does grow in the book, but
Mm-hmm.
a lot of those things he's already kind of had time to do. Whereas my other MMCs, and also Xiomara, like, what she's, I can't even remember, like 31 and he's
Yeah.
125. Like, I didn't want him to be like 125 vampire child. Like, I wanted him to have some maturity. So yeah, it ended up being the Xiomara show. But anyway,
I didn't even think about that though, because we do read, like, in fantasy books, romantasy, like there's the 400-year-old like vampire, but they still have like very immature characteristics, and like that's is that why I love Boone? Because he was very like very mature, and like for what it was, and like he would see Xiomara and like how she behaved and stuff, but he wasn't ever like, oh, like he never judged her, and he accepted her once they got past that the rough phase.
The initial few humps,
And so I think, he was extremely mature, and like, well, I don't want to like drop spoilers, but after they had their issues, I think like the way they came back together. I'm getting like emotional because that was so beautiful. Like, I love the way that they came back together.
Thank you.
Yes, it wasn't a fantastical way. It was just like the way that two people would probably naturally come back together in the real world. Like, you have your differences, and then you take some time apart, and then you figure yourselves out, and then you kind of decide like, oh, this is what I actually really want. And I thought that was so strong.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you.
I try.
But I do think that that's another thing, and this is not in the notes, but something that I really love about your books is that, like, obviously, like, there are several fantastical elements, like these are mythical creatures with powers and stuff, but like a lot of the issues that they have are very realistic, like familial issues, and like inner struggles, and like things like that. It's not so much like there's this giant evil bad guy. Like, it's just a lot of it is sometimes a lot of that's sometimes internal. So like, where do you pull that from?
I think probably from my, like, what is interesting to me. No shade, I swear. I just, when I wrote Twin Blades, I was deep into romantasy reading at the time. And I was just like, oh God, like, I don't want to read another book or experience another world where we have to like save the world. Like, I just, like, those big bad issues, I think those can be really compelling epics. But I don't know, what fascinates me is like interpersonal relationships and like inner growth. And when I read, like, as long as the characters are compelling, like, not a lot has to happen plot wise for me as a reader. Like that, those sorts of arc, they're the plot. So I think it starts with my own interests, and I'm trying to think back to some of my books for an example. But yeah, usually I'll have a glimpse of like a scene, or like I'll ask myself a question. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think of a book that really poses that. I think for Wicked as the Night, maybe it fits. Like, I did think about who Xiomara was first, and then I backtracked, as you know, and I wrote Scars of the Sun, because I was like, well, I can't get to her yet. So I need a love interest for Ramona. So let me make her brother, or her guy, the brother of Xiomara. And then I kind of built in this like this supernatural crime thing. just because I like crime stories or
Same.
mafia stuff. And then the question then became like, okay, so if you have this character who's been trained to be this weapon, she's also kind of unhinged, and she gets more freedom than she's already had. What would she do with that? If she's having to also, if she's with somebody who is pointing out the things, which I think is a very real um, type of conflict where someone who cares about you is pointing out, like, no, this is like messed up that you endure this, or like this person has mistreated you. And I think that's a very real thing for the person who's now having this light shed on their issues that they didn't even fully realize were issues, and what sort of dissonance that causes. I'm getting off track and I'm trying to remember
No,
your
you're
question.
not.
But yeah, interpersonal stuff, like all of that is so interesting to me, and how we all heal. And I think that's what makes characters who are vampires or shapeshifters or witches. I think that's how it makes it relatable to a reader. Um, I mean, I am a romance reader myself, so I try to write things that would be compelling to other people, but also what would be compelling to me, or else I wouldn't be able to write it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, because like there's, I mean, like obviously there are, there's evil, like there's, forces,
Mm-hmm.
there's like opposition in the book, you know what I mean? That is outside of Boone
Mm-hmm.
and say Boone and Noelle, outside of Boone and Tiamara. But
Mm-hmm.
like like her father and like the just general being in competing mafia, like that sort of thing is like the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like whenever like with the heat and with her having realizations about her mother and her family dynamic and like how she's on
Mm-hmm.
the outside of her sister and her father, like that kind of stuff is like what drives the plot for me. Because like you said, like the characters, I love when
Mm-hmm.
the characters are the plot, because you could have like oh, this is a vampire and they have to save the world, no shade, I love it there, I
Uh-huh.
really do, I love it. But at the
Yeah.
same time it's
Yeah.
like, who is this, who is this person
Uh-huh.
besides a vampire or besides a shapeshifter, like what are they,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that you do that
Mm-hmm.
so well. It's like for a little bit of the time I forget that Ziamara is this shape shifting badass. Like I do forget, and I'm like, oh, she's just a girl and she's trying to figure her life
She's just a
out.
girl. She's just a little girl.
She's just a girl and she really just needs a hug sometimes. And I forget about that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that it just makes the story like so compelling whenever you have a person where you can like see yourself in them. Like you see some parts of your struggles in theirs, and like you see how they handle it or like how they don't handle it. And it makes them so human.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's why I love Sylvie. It's why I love Ramona. It's why I love Rio. It's why I love all your characters, because and all of
Oh,
them, I
thank
can,
you.
I do. Um, but it's why I love them so much, and why I feel like a lot of people will resonate with your books, because yeah, they're magical, but it's also like very relatable and like it's real.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that was one of the tangents I knew I was going to go off on, but
Oh no, it's okay. I'll talk for forever. So you gotta you gotta manage me.
I was gonna say, you have to manage me, so I don't know what we're gonna do. Um, so, like getting on to like kind of representation, because like that's another thing that I really
Oh
love in
yeah.
your books. Um, like anybody can see themselves in any, you know what I mean? Like I feel like you kind of write
Mm-hmm.
for anybody, you know what I mean? Like if they're,
Mm-hmm.
you're black, you're white, you're brown, you're queer, like anybody can see
Mm-hmm.
themselves in like a form in these characters. So what does representation
Mm-hmm.
mean to you? And like that's a big question.
Oh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I mean, it's like everything. Again, I am a pretty avid reader. I don't know. I haven't checked my Goodreads this year, but usually it's above 100, and
Yeah.
you know, yes, I'm so glad that there are more authors like myself who are writing characters that look like me and my friends. And but I think there can always be more of us. I think there's always room for diversity because that's how the world is. I think it also is a reflection just of my life and, the people I surround myself with, the people I find interesting, which is to say all different sorts of people. So yeah, I when I set out to write Twin Blades, again, I was deep into romantasy, and it was also me, like at the time I was returning to reading a lot. In college and grad school, I, slipped off the reader train, as many people do.
Yep.
So I was working my first big girl job, and I had more time. So I, took the gateway drug of romantasy. And yeah, at least the books that I was reading at the time, which were, the more popular ones, it was before I even really knew what indie publishing was. Yeah, the books were not very diverse, at least the ones that I was being recommended and the ones that I was picking up. And so I think I wrote Twin Blades for a lot of reasons, but part of that was my frustration with not seeing as much diversity in books and just wanting to put my stamp on that, especially in like a fantasy setting. And I also, was coming from, I think probably the last fantasy book I had read before I got into romantasy was like N.K. Jemisin books. So I was like, that's what I want to see. And then what I'm reading now is not what's happening. So like, how can I want to write. So how can I, make this thing happen? And yeah, again, I'm going off the rails, but
No, I love it.
Everything.
Because no, I love it because your reasons are my own, except for like as opposed to being an author versus a reader. And I don't know if I ever told you, but like, so I went on the same break. I through college, grad school, like life, I just stopped reading books. And so whenever I got back into reading, it is that like bit of frustration. I think I had those those flashbacks to the 90s, 2000s where I'm like, I don't want to be the sidekick. I want to see myself in the FMC, like not as like the best friend or the, the person in the back.
Yes.
And no shade, no shade.
No, I get you. I always say justice for Tara Thornton and justice for Bonnie Bennett because like
there you go.
I love that.
I love it too. And it's because your books look like real life, because very much like myself and her, like, we have friends who are all different colors, nationalities, genders, who identify, who identify different, like, this is our world, you know what I mean? Like, these are our friends, and I love it so much. Like, I live in these books. You have no idea how much I appreciate
so cool to hear. Yeah. I know, like, we've talked on social media, but the writing is such like a solitary activity. And I've recently gone to a couple of conventions and stuff. But aside from that and talking on social media, like, I'm so in my world. So when people say like, oh yeah, I found your book. And I'm like, you did? Amazing to hear.
No, yeah, we found you, and you were kind of like our gateway drug, because like reading your books, we got recommended to you were like, how does it feel to be a gateway drug? So we found you, and like we, deep dive into your books, and then we were led to all sorts of Black indie authors, and I was like, this is like this. It was a whole new world for me, and it made me really want to get into books. Like, oh my god, it made me want to get into Bookstagram, and made me want to start creating content and promoting more authors who create like you, for representation, for diversity, and like all of these reasons, because I'm like, I can't be the only one, and I know I'm not the only person out there looking for books like this. So thank you so much for your service.
Oh my god. You're welcome. I had no idea. I'm so glad.
Circling back to Wicked of the Night, I need to know specifically about like certain things, like from your trope list. Like, there are some things, you know what I'm talking about, the warming.
Okay.
Because your books are spicy, and they're like spicy. Some are spicier than others, but they're very spicy. But I love that. I love spicy books, but I also love that you know, you do have a solid plot, you have solid characters, you have things that are surrounding the
Oh, thank you.
spice that make it rewarding. But Wicked as the
Mhm.
Night was a little different because before you got to the, you know,
Mhm,
resolution,
mhm.
the epic
Yeah.
moment, you know, all of that, they were warming.
Not something I don't think I've ever said that out loud. Um, I've just typed it. So yeah. Yeah, that one is so I feel like so I am a pantser, and I don't know how many people are familiar with like that writing style, like how people talk about it, but
Mhm.
there's like plotters and pantsers. I've heard some people use plantser, which is just a combination. And then there is an author who used the term, I think like gardener, and maybe I resonate with that a bit more. But like a plotter is someone who like plans everything out that they're
Mhm.
gonna write. Um, I'm definitely not that. A pantser is someone who like sits down and they just let the characters and the world and the plot just flow.
Mhm.
Um, and then there's some folks who are somewhere in the middle, which I feel like is probably more accurate because most people fall somewhere in between of
It's a
anything.
spectrum.
Um, yeah, and but this one author described it as like growing is like planting seeds that are very intentional and then like kind of standing back and watching them grow and flourish. And I liked that um, metaphor. But anyway, so I'm a pantser in that a lot of stuff is random, or like I'll be writing and then um, I'll see something or I'll hear something or I'll read something and I'm like, ooh, that's an interesting thing. So I think at the time I've maybe read a book where it had warming in it. And I was like, now, would this work here? Um, and I don't even remember what the book was. I had read it in a book before. So I think it was just like the right time and like the right little like thought seed being planted as I was, starting to write beginning scenes of Siomara's book. I'm trying to think what the first. I also don't write in order. It's a little chaotic. So the first scene I ever wrote for Wicked as the Night, I think I was still writing Scars of the Sun, and I wrote the karaoke scene. Um, partic- yeah, particularly when like I think that scene spans like a chapter two. It definitely spans both of their POVs, but uh, Boone's POV watching Siomara during karaoke. That was the first scene I ever wrote for the book. And so, yeah, I'll have scenes and then I'll have like moments, I'll have questions, I'll have uh, tropes like warming. And then I write a scene and I'm like, does it fit? Does it work? And I think I was writing Shadows and Flames. Yes, I was. I was writing Shadows and Flames and I was procrastinating because I didn't want to be writing it for some reason that day. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write this moment. I had an idea of Xiomara like strutting around in like mob wife outfit and Boone
Mhm.
calling her out like, why do you look like a mob wife? And I had, and I had like literally it was just that and I was like, that'd be kind of interesting to write. That's funny. So I sat down and that seed grew into this moment of her trying to seduce him. And then my thought goes, okay, Xiomara is sheltered enough to where I don't think she would be able to keep up this ruse of
No.
seducing him. Because she's so sheltered, she's like tactless a lot of the time. At least when she's herself, because she has enough training. And I don't know, that juxtaposition for Xiomara was also something I had to keep a wrangle on because I didn't want her to be not smart because she wouldn't be this weapon and this enforcer if she wasn't smart. And so, but I wanted like this naive part of her to maybe to like come out more when she's just herself. And so like when she tries to seduce him, she has to be herself, and she has no tact, and she's like, well, I'll just, I don't know how censored I have to be in this. I'll just do this if you let me sit in the meeting. and then, and then I think, I don't know if I had already established I wanted Boone to be competitive. Um, or maybe it just naturally came because it's like, well, he's a business guy and he's in this crime enterprise. I think you have to be a little bit competitive to be doing this for over 100 years.
Yeah.
Because if you're not competitive, yeah, if you're not competitive and you're not kind of obsessed with winning, I think Xiomara asked him the question like, you have enough money and you can live forever. Why don't you just like beat it and like be on vacation all the time?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. So that was another thing. Like, I won't go too off the rails. So anyway, him being competitive, Xiomara having no tact, and she's like, well, I'll do this if you just let me sit in this meeting because I need to get information because you know I'm here. um, and then him like calling her bluff and being like, well, she's surely not going to be with this. And then them just like one-upping each other. And then him thinking that this warming thing is going to, I don't know, like embarrass her or be the reason she backs down. And she's touch starved and she's with it. So she does not back down. And then I liked the idea of him trying to get her, like kind of getting thrown back in his face. And also him also thinking that, oh, I have control over this, because I think I also did some research into warming,
Me too.
just as like a concept, and like how that works, and like what what it gives both parties in this situation. And so I think after that moment of research, then I decided to have that also, not just for Xiomara, be like a moment where she has like body contact with someone for a sustained period of time that's gentle. But for Boone, like that also being like a bonding thing that he did not expect and is not immune to.
Yeah.
I just went off on a whole long tangent, so you gotta reel me in.
No, because like you brought up some points. So like for one, like you were talking, so that I did not expect for her to do it. Like whenever it got brought up because of who she is, like I was like, she's gonna fight, like she's gonna stab him or she's gonna break his neck, like she's gonna
stab him again. Yeah.
Yeah, like automatically. So I think that was, I hate to say this was fun for me, but it was fun. It was a fun moment where she was just like, okay, and then she does it because it was very out of character. But then going back into her personality and like how you made her, because yeah, she is like, I don't want to say aloof because she's not. She's incredibly intelligent. And she's like you said, tactless as herself, but very tactful while she's doing her job, because she knows like what's at stake if she does a bad job, or like if she doesn't, come through. So like that made sense why she did it, because she needs to, deliver this information. She needs to get this information. So she's just going to do whatever she has to do to get it, including like submitting a little bit. So that makes a lot of sense. Like my own tangent, that part where she's on the phone, and she's just like transforming her feet into lion's paws, and they're I think about that too much. It was so funny to me because she's like, if we lived in the savannah.
Yes. I'm so glad these things are funny to other people, because you're like, I'm just like cackling to myself in the coffee shop, writing, like, I hope other people think this is funny.
I laugh about that like at least once a week. It was so funny to me because they're trying to have like a very serious conversation, and she's just like turning her feet into lion paws and like asking, and she does like that thing where she asks like random questions that are completely like so far away, and I but anyway, that was a tangent, sorry, I had to bring that up to you. Um, but
No. I those moments I think I don't know that's what makes the characters fun. And even that thing like Xiomara like asking random questions. I don't know if other people got it cuz sometimes I put stuff in books and I'm like, well, if other people don't get it, at least I get it and that's fun. But like her asking random questions, like I feel like in the beginning I had Boone be like, what are you talking about? Like and he would like brush her off, but like the longer they were together, he was really the only person who listened to her and would answer her questions. Um, and like in that moment where she's talking to her sister on the phone, just asking if we were in the savannah, would you pull out my splinters? And her sister like completely brushing it off because I mean, who wouldn't like? Why is she asking this question? Um, but yeah, for Boone to see her and take her seriously, because I mean, like she like we've been saying, she is smart and she has her own like grasp on the world, I guess. And for Boone to not necessarily see the world in that way, but respect it. Um, yeah, I thought that in that moment he was able to compliment her in a way that she needed, and she didn't really get besides Rio, but
yeah,
she can't be around Rio. So yeah.
yeah, I think that with that, because like Boone as a character, he's very observant because he has to be. He's older. He's a business guy, and so I think that he caught a lot of things in her life where he felt like
Yeah.
after they started to be closer together, where he was like, okay,
Mhm.
this is a problem for her. Like he caught it automatically, like the distance between her sister
Yeah.
and her father and her, like caught it first night whenever they went to the,
Mhm.
I think it was the engagement dinner, or like it was like
Yeah, at her dad's house.
yeah, at her
Yeah.
dad's house. He caught that automatically, and he caught the thing about her mom almost
Mhm.
automatically. And so I think with like her just
Yeah.
asking random questions, he's like, she needs that attention, like let me provide it to her. And
Mhm.
so I think
Mhm.
when they're having like, the the more spicy moments, I think that it's really important that, and this is true for, I feel like, all of your characters. You can correct me if I'm wrong because you know them better than me. But I feel like they always have
So, I
like,
don't know. Sometimes I write stuff and I read it back. I'm like, I don't remember writing that.
who wrote
I
that?
guess I did. Yeah, basically. I surprise
um,
myself sometimes. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're fine, because I like you. I read maybe about 100 books every year, maybe more. And
Mhm.
I think what's funny is like with these books, whenever I got them in the mail, I remember all of them. Like I remember,
Yeah.
yeah, I remember all of them. I remember how they get together. I remember that. I remember
Mhm.
hating. This is completely off topic, but I remember hating Rio for for.
Okay. Okay. That is okay. You're in good company with my sister. And that when my sister I heard someone else told me that. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like that was maybe one of the more distressing things. I was like, what do you mean you don't like him? Because like I was not trying to make him unlikable, but I like hearing my sister's perspective because she is an Orion stan. Like
Me
she
too.
goes hard, like a sweet shy lover boy. That is my sister's jam. Which okay, I don't want to not me throwing shade on my own characters, but like okay, so I love Orion so much. Orion in Scars of the Sun was far more interesting to me than Orion in The Light of the Moon.
What?
I
Okay.
know, I know.
Okay.
I needed okay. So In the Light of the Moon came from me being so fatigued with M and L's stuff. I was like, I need sweet people because that was so much. Like I was crying writing the end of Twin Blades. Like no
I
joke.
know. I cried reading it. It was
So so when I wrote In the Light of the Moon, I was like, you know what? I just want some sweet characters. It was getting towards the fall. So it has a fall vibe because I was writing it and as the leaves were changing. And yeah, I just wanted sweet characters for that moment. But I guess MMCs that I really think are compelling are ones like Rio. Um, so when people were like, no, I didn't like Rio, I'm like, because he is kind of an asshole. I think it's funny.
Okay,
I think it's so funny.
you brought him back, and I do love Rio. I truly do. But in the beginning, like when they first met at his show, I think it was at his show
Yeah.
or they were at a house party, and like that
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
I was like, Ramona, run, like Ramona, run.
Okay, yeah, like realistically, like in real life, yeah, girl, run. What are you doing? And I maybe it was just because in my head I was, and I that was the first scene I wrote for that book actually. Um, I think In the Light of the Moon had been out for like 2 weeks or something. And so I wrote that scene and I was like, oh, I love it. And I love him. Um, but I knew he was gonna be sweet, but I needed like someone because Ramona was so like turned into herself, even though she had committed her summer, her summer to being with her family and doing that to heal. So she was like interacting with her niece and nephew and Sylvia and Orion. Um, she was still so turned into herself and like, I mean, coming from like a little grippy sock vacation. So like I wanted I mean I needed like a character, I don't know, because Ramona, she was going through that, but then she's also not sweet. She's also not like a tender flower. So I didn't want her to, or it didn't feel right for her to have someone kind of in the same vein as Orion being like sweet and like doting. Like I needed someone who could be those things, but to like or not catapult, like bombard his way into her life and like shake her up a little bit. Like I guess I just felt like she needed that energy for her to even be interested. Um,
Yeah, that makes
so that's
100.
why, yeah,
Yeah, it makes sense, and you're right. Like I think for one, she hated like being kind of doted on. Like she didn't like that. Like when her brother did
yeah,
it, when anybody did
yeah,
it, she felt like it was
yeah.
like patronizing and stuff. And then whenever
Mm-hmm.
Delaney first came into the picture, I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's Delaney. And then because I didn't know, but but I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is cute. Like he's right there. But then it did make more sense to me. Like the longer her and Rio, she needed
Mm-hmm.
somebody to kind of like you said, bombard her life. He pulled her out of a lot of
Yeah.
the depression and anxiety. He kind of helped heal
Yeah.
her in a lot of ways, like while she
Uh-huh.
was healing him. And so
Yeah.
I got over it. I kept reading. I was like, I don't like when this
I'm
starts.
so glad you kept reading. I'll tell you, it's funny you mentioned Delaney because you mentioning that makes me remember Delaney. I was going to not have like a true love triangle, but I almost had Delaney be like someone who was interested in Ramona and then Rio be upset about it. That was going to happen. And I forget what made me detour. I forget. I think maybe it's when I started fleshing out Tyler and I was like, oh no, I already know where I want this to go. And I had other, things I could do with Rio's arc. But yeah, I wanted to show again how these characters who they have a lot of things about their personalities that are very different, but then also things that are the same that they can be on the same page about. Um, and then ways that they complement each other. So, I mean, Rio, they could be doting on each other, but I think they did it in different ways. I think, yeah, Ramona needed some, like a soft place to land, which I think I used that term a lot in Wicked as the Night. But yeah, she needed someone to kind of call her out on stuff, but Rio really needed kind of like that more quiet reliability, which I think Ramona gives. And she like I think I have her say in the book, like she's not like Sylvie in that she's not very sweet, but she is like she cares and she
Yeah. And well, speaking of Sylvie, I obviously, once again, you wrote them. And I think I know who your favorite is. I think we talked about it offline. But Sylvie
okay, what
Hall,
did I say?
is Ramona your favorite FMC from the series?
Oh. See, I oscillate. Okay, so I think Ramona is. mm, I think Ramona is probably the closest to my actual personality or how I see myself. Um, her and Malene. So I think in those ways they're favorites of mine. Um, but yeah, sometimes my favorite is just who I've written most recently.
Most recently.
So right now, Xiomara's in my mind, and then my new work in progress. I'm obsessed with her.
So you're saying like you kind of oscillate between like who's your, and that makes the most sense because like whoever's kind of the freshest in your mind would be the person that you identify with the most. So, like on an emotional level, how do you identify with the characters that you're currently writing?
The end of Twin Blades, like no
I
joke.
know.
So that grief, which was like the central theme for the whole book. I was like, oh, I think I was probably processing grief the whole time. But I did not know that that was what I was doing. Or like I'll take bits and pieces from like people's personalities or just like I think about one of my good friends. She's like the sweetest person I've ever met. But I remember one conversation we were having just when we were starting to get to know each other years and years ago. She mentioned like getting in trouble in high school for like fighting. And it was just so strange, like, because knowing her now, she's like so, like, I wouldn't have imagined that. And I definitely like pulled that juxtaposition for Sylvie, her being like this very sweet character who also has kind of like an anger issue. Um, yeah. Um, so that and what? Like Ramona and Rio skating a lot. It wasn't how we met, but me and my husband, like, I guess this was 2020 when everyone was getting roller skates. I also got roller skates. And my husband skateboarded a lot more when he was like a teenager, but he still does it on and off. And so we skated all the time. And I definitely took that for and put it into Scars of the Sun because I wanted like this summer romance, and I was like, well, what could two like 20 somethings do in the summer? So I think, yeah, my FMCs all have tiny bits and pieces of myself and also the people I have in my proximity, the people I care about. And so in that way, like they are very dear to me because they feel like either myself or the people I love. But yeah, more bits and pieces, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and then because I think it kind of makes the writing more authentic whenever you can kind of pull a little bit from real life.
Yeah.
It's like, I know what this looks like, I know how it goes, and I
Yeah.
kind of know like what the ending of it
Yeah.
or like how the experience is.
Yeah.
And so that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And so I think like the last big thing that I kind of wanted to talk about slash compliment you on was the was the MMCs, because your MMCs and why I like them so much is because regardless of whatever the FMC is going through, like they kind of provide like a safe place for them, and then like kind of like establish like intimacy, so it's not just like hot sex. There's like there's what I mean, like there's a relationship for it and a place for it, but that's not like the entire, like their entire relationship doesn't revolve around saving the world or fighting. It's like being built, you know what I'm saying?
And like with that being said, like I can, you show us and how Sylvie and Orion kind of end up with a family, and you show us how Ramona and like Rio end up, and together, like cohabitating. How I need to know, and I know you can't tell me, but how Xiomara and Boone, and because they don't have like a normal relationship, they don't have the same levels of normalcy that I think Orion and Sylvie and Rio and Ramona had.
Yeah. So how's Xiomara and Boone what?
Not necessarily how they end up, because like I know they kind of have.
What happened? It's funny because the people who subscribe to my Patreon are so gracious, because I'm always like, I'm gonna write a short story, and then it fizzles. I have them opened up and I have them started, I swear. But it's funny, I was writing one that I think I posted my progress of it, but it's just unfinished. Just like this scene of, I guess it would be a couple months after the last chapter of Wicked is the Night. So it's Xiomara's birthday, and Boone, basically it starts with her talking to Rufus, the dog, and is like, I don't know why he doesn't want me in the house. I don't know what I did wrong. He won't let me in there. And she's like dressed up. He gave her these diamond earrings, but she's like, but after he gave me the earrings, he told me to leave the house. And I don't know like what I did wrong. And then Boone comes out to the barn and she like is apologizing to him. And he's like, for what? And she's like, and you find out through the as I go on that he like planned the spa day for her and was doing all this stuff. And she's like, and he's like, well, because it's your birthday. And she's like, well, that doesn't matter. Why aren't you letting me in the house? And and he's like, because we know from the book that Boone and Xiomara cannot cook. Boone can't taste the food, and Xiomara has never had to cook, so they should not be allowed around like the food. But he got the chef to help him cook something for her, and that's why he needed her out of the house. But she's like, so I think this is my long story of saying that I think they're still working on her relaxing into the relationship, and I guess like trusting the safety within it. Not that she like doesn't trust Boone, but her still having these moments of like, well, no, you told me you did all this stuff so I couldn't be in the house, so you must be mad at me.
Is it like with her how she grew up? That's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, but yeah, I just view them as being sweet with each other, but also like violent and ruthless in their work life. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you ever played like The Sims back in the day, where if you look out in the distance, it's like black, like you can't see anything, but you see it as you travel further and further down. That's kind of how I like they're happily ever after. I know it's there. I just don't know what it exactly looks like, but I think it would be in the theme of that. And for the next book of the series, I keep telling people I'm scared. I'm not going to spoil it, but the epilogue and the next couple, they scare me because I don't know how I'm going to make it work. And I think Boone and Xiomara are going to, I think Xiomara is going to show one of the love interests in the next book. Like, no, this is how you can atone for the things you've done. And here's how you can learn to be okay with accepting your fault. Because I think the scene that really made me cry in Wicked is the Night, I think there was only one, and that was the moment where Xiomara talks to Rio.
Oh my God.
Like, that really made me cry. Like,
I cried so bad. It was so good.
Thank you.
It was so good.
Because I almost didn't have that moment happen, because that was also a question I asked myself of like, okay, if you're in a situation where it starts off when they're kids, actually the whole time they're kids, and you're in that environment, you hurt your sibling. And so, yes, you're all being abused, but then you become an abuser.
Yeah.
What are you? You're not really owed anything from that person. You're not, if that person is in a place where they can't have you in your life, you just have to sit with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I wanted to do right by Rio, and I also wanted to do right by Xiomara, because there is an element of like, the line that made me cry when I was writing that scene was actually her talking to Ramona, and while Ramona's like beating the crap out of her, she tells Ramona like, I would have liked to know you in a different light.
Yeah.
Oh my god, it made me cry. I was like,
Oh
I'm like, I did not plan for that to be said, but it felt right. And yeah, I think, I don't know how I got on this tangent, but
no, it's okay. Like that whole part was I I think about that line a lot too, because like once again going back into like, you know, your family and everything, but at the same time too much damage can be done.
yeah.
And I think that it was very like rewarding as a reader that Xiomara got closure, and
Mhm.
that Rio also got closure.
Yeah.
It's like probably not what they wanted. I know it's not what Xiomara wanted, and I know it was like hurtful for Rio too to like kind of end that, because he loves her, you
Yeah.
know. But at the same time, he's like, I just have to protect what I've built, you
Yeah.
know. Like after all this time, like
Yeah.
I'm finally done with it, and I can't, like, we can't erase the past sort
Yeah.
of thing. So like, let's just, you know, and I don't know, like I don't, oh my god, I don't know if it's because like it made me think about, you know, my life, or just because it was so well written
Oh,
and
thank you.
so
Thank
good
you.
and so beautiful. But I think about that a lot.
Thanks. Yeah, that was a tough one for me because, like I said, I almost didn't put it in there because part of me was like, well, I don't think she deserves this. Because yeah, like I spent all of Scars of the Sun exploring Rio's trauma, and it's like, well, it's really bad. Like, Xiomara cops to it in the book, like, oh no, I hurt my brother really bad, and
Yeah.
she does come to that realization. But I think that also showing her maturity, because like when she shows up in Scars of the Sun, she, granted, she is like working, but she's very taunting, and she's not, you see the moments of her love for Rio, but it really comes to the forefront in Wicked as the Night. And by the time I got, because I think I wrote that scene towards the end of me writing the book, so I had written all this other growth on Xiomara's part, and I was like, okay, maybe I can write this in a way that shows her growth and her consideration of Rio, even through the pain. So I think she can help out the next FMC, or one of them. It's going to be a Sapphic book, which that's not too many spoilers, I don't think.
No.
Because yeah, I realize how I got on this topic. I think Boone and Xiomara are going to help in that way. Not necessarily solve the problems, but show like, okay, sometimes you just have to accept that some doors are closed, because that's how you can show you still love that person, by respecting that. Because yeah, Rio did build all that stuff, and Xiomara knew that, like, I think she said, "Oh, my brother, the artist, he did it," and she didn't want to compromise that, or not compromise, but mess that up in any way. So anyway,
Yeah. No, I now like I'm like, am I gonna go back and read Scars this time? But yeah, no, I really do appreciate that so much, and I do think like another. I keep saying another thing I like, but another thing that I like is that like you tie things off. You know what I mean? Like I do still have some questions about certain books, but I think that, you know, like eventually like it'll you kind of bring it back.
Oh God, I hope so. I'm so chaotic, but I really try remembering the things. I'm trying to remember the threads I haven't fully tied off.
No, you tie off the threads, and so like I'm not left with like a time. I'm left wanting more, but I'm not left saying, well, why this and why that and why that.
Okay, good.
Because you always clarified in the next book, because I had so many questions about Catalina and Xiomara from Scars of the Sun, but in Wicked as the Night, like I felt like I got so much like clarification. And like same with like how I could not stand Rio at the beginning of Scars of the Sun, but then it but like continuing to read made me like really love him and understand his character, and not only that, but just like feel for his plight and everything like that. So I do really appreciate that as a reader, and I know a lot of us do too, because some of these books just leave you hanging, and they know they do it, and it hurts.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I try. And just so you know, everybody out there who doesn't like Rio, who thinks he's not romantic, I wrote to spite. Okay, I don't know. So the Valentine's special that I wrote, which is very quick. I wrote that just because my sister said he was not romantic enough. I was like, well, guess what? Now Rio's crying about it. So, because he feels really bad.
You spite wrote?
I did. Because I love him so much. And no, maybe he's not the most outwardly romantic, but he loves Ramona so much. And I needed Ramona to be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, you're fine. Everyone who meets Rio, just know that you made him cry. I don't know.
I'm so it's fine. No, even before the Valentine's Day special, I was Team Rio. I was rooting for him. I really was.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I was so happy for Ramona because, and like, just the whole pack. I was really happy for the pack because he needed them. They needed him in a way. I feel like it really strengthened the family. Adding him in. I don't like the way he started, but I love the way he finished.
Well, that's what matters. That's what matters.
That's what matters. Okay, I'm not going to take up any more of your time.
Okay.
I could really talk to you all day about these books.
I know. I'll keep going if you let me. So we got to call it at some point.
We got to call it. And I just really want to say thank you so much.
Of course.
Not only for the interview, though, Noelle, like for genuinely, I just truly love your books. And
thank you.
Such a fan of course. And I will forever be one of your biggest fans, and I will forever under your DMs and ask you to yap about.
Oh, please. And oh my goodness, thank you so much for the kind words. And I'm really grateful. I mean, I've said it before, you're like my ideal reader. So it is wild to meet like the reader I am writing for, So yeah, I'm glad that we got to connect because again, I'll be in my little writer cave in the coffee shop with my headphones in and not think about this stuff and just hope that when I throw it out into the world, people enjoy it. So I'm glad. Thank you.
Of course. And I hope you have a great day, and I will be chatting with you soon.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye, Noelle.
Bye.